says the agency is looking to conduct a pilot run of blended learning in the coming school year. San Antonio says they are now better equipped to strategize how blended learning should be after an assessment of the first year of distance learning.
Gusto lang po nating bigyang diin din na kahit po nakikita at naghahanda tayo sa blended distance learning ulit, yung pong ginawa natin ngayon, ay pagtingin ko naman po ay mas magiging maayos ito, may iwasan yung mas maraming naging hamon na hinarap namin kasi yung pong mga learning resources ay nandyan na ang karamihan, so magdadagdag na lamang kami.
Kabataan Party List National Chairperson Raul Manuel agrees that the government should actively work towards bringing students back into physical classrooms. But Manuel also pointed out that we shouldn't revert to the pre-pandemic school system, rather improve it for the better once and for all.
Yung gusto natin kasi ay magkaroon naman tayo ng better normal. Ibig sabihin kung ano yung dati, ayaw naman natin na yun lang din yung magpatuloy. Halimbawa, yung siksikan sa mga classrooms na umaabot sa 60 na estudyante sa loob ng isang classroom.
Yes.
Actually, yung gusto natin talaga ay lumuwag yun eh. And we have seen sa ibang mga bansa na yung mas priority talaga ay nag-iingat habang binubuksan na yung ating mga campuses. Tapos kung may mga surge man o merong magkasakit, for a time ay titigil muna sa face-to-face pero bent pa rin na makabalik agad sa classroom yung mga estudyante.
Meanwhile, CHED Chairperson Popoy de Vera clarified that he never said that face-to-face classes are no longer possible moving forward. De Vera was heavily criticized for saying that flexible learning is here to stay, even beyond the pandemic. But the official explained that flexible learning may also include limited face-to-face classes, along with other learning modalities that schools may adapt based on their self-assessment of their needs.
So, will there be face-to-face in the future? It depends on the conditions on the ground. Eventually, if we achieve herd immunity, vaccinated na 70%, okay, then we will allow the schools to slowly bring back the students. But it will not be anymore in the old traditional type.
Medical experts are worried about Filipinos delaying their vaccination to wait for their preferred vaccine brands. They say it may be a little too late once the new COVID variants become prevalent. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro will give us a front seat to the story.
Ay, dito na ako! Ano yung ginagawa mo? Ano yung ginagawa mo? Hindi na maaga para makapasok ng trabaho. Nasaan yung kakalabi?
Last week, Filipinos swamped vaccination sites that were administering Pfizer. In contrast, some testing sites giving out Sinovac could barely make their quotas. At first, the problem was vaccine hesitancy. Now, it's vaccine choosy. Some Filipinos seem ready to wait for their preferred vaccine brands.
If you choose to delay your vaccination, you run the risk of getting COVID. Yung mga tao talagang fixated sa numbers. Diba? The higher, the better.
Dr. Gloriani says most of this is based on a misreading of early scientific data. Pfizer registered high efficacy rates of 95% in controlled clinical trials in December. Sinovac was reported to have only given 50.4% protection in early trials in Brazil. Most people were comparing apples to oranges. Sinovac's Brazil trial was for medical workers who were much more heavily exposed to the virus. When Sinovac was administered in Indonesia this April and May, the vaccine was already hitting 94% efficacy.
Ngayon, unti-unti lumalabas yung resulta ng mga big groups na nabakunahan na, an example of which is Indonesia. So that is really very acceptable and reassuring.
Gloriani says All the vaccines approved by the FDA are now turning out to have more or less similar efficacy rates.
We talk about Sputnik, adenovirus. They came up with 97% efficacy.
Another concern is which brand is better at fighting the new COVID variants. NITAG's Dr. Lim Kizon says there is not enough data that shows that one brand has the advantage in fighting the different variants. In the end, experts say the choosiness of Filipinos will only put them in greater danger.
It's a race against time. Pag nangibabaw yung variant, back to square one tayo.
In the end, Dr. Gloriani says all vaccine brands, whether US or China made, give us the same level of protection we need. I'm Jacob Lazaro and we are One News.
A study by Public Health England finds that Pfizer and AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccines are effective against the variant first identified in India. Boomer Shivastava tells us more on Bloomberg Quick Take.
The study by the Public Health England is the first comprehensive study on this new variant of concern called B1617 and its sublineages. It was first detected in India, highly transmissible and widely suspected to be the main reason behind the massive second wave, the spike in cases India has seen. The study found a couple of interesting things. One, the Pfizer vaccine with 2 doses provides an efficacy rate of about 88% to everybody. And the AstraZeneca's Covishield vaccine, after 2 doses, provides an efficacy of about 60%. Now, this shows that the current spate of vaccines that we have do work against this new variant and that we do need 2 doses. Like 1 dose brings down the efficacy level to much below 50%, which kind of shows us the need for a 2-dose regimen.
Aside from fighting COVID-19, the World Health Organization says it's also making steps to prepare for the next pandemic. The World Health Assembly, WHO's highest decision-making body, has outlined the urgency of ending the current pandemic and preparing for the next one. Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said the WHO must continue giving countries effective and evidence-informed tools to prevent infection, like what they did on the onset of the coronavirus. The WHO also aims to prevent the next pandemic by building a, quote, healthier, safer, and fairer world.
No country should assume it's out of the woods, no matter its vaccination rate. So far, no variants have emerged that significantly undermine the efficacy of vaccines, diagnostics, or therapeutics. But there is no guarantee that will remain the case. This virus is changing constantly. Future changes could render our tools ineffective and drag us back to square one.
However, the WHO also admitted that the current pandemic is far from over. The organization believes that the crisis drags on due to a scandalous inequity in vaccine distribution. Tedros urged countries to donate vaccine doses to COVAX to inoculate 10% of populations of all countries by September and 30% by year end. And he also called on vaccine manufacturers to give COVAX the first right of refusal on new volumes of vaccines, or to commit 50% of their volumes to COVAX by this year.
The ongoing vaccine crisis is a scandalous inequity that's perpetuating the pandemic. More than 75% of all vaccines have been administered in just 10 countries. There is no diplomatic way to say it. A small group of countries that make and buy the majority of the world's vaccines control the fate of the rest of the world.
Government agencies have now reacted on cease and desist orders that have been issued to them by the Laguna Lake Development Authority. This is for the alleged releasing of wastewater into Manila Bay. Let's find out the response from Shyla Francisco. She's reporting live from Manila, where a DENR inspection is ongoing. Good morning, Shyla. Among those issued cease and desist orders were 3 government agencies. So how did they respond to these allegations?
Charles, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, told the DNR and the Laguna Lake Development Authority that they're already upgrading their sewage treatment plant as a response. The Philippine Navy, meanwhile, in a statement says that they are working on building a temporary septic tank to catch all wastewater in the compound while they are still waiting for the construction of their sewer treatment plant. Now, as for the DPWH, who was, by the way, with the DNR and the LLDA during the inspection, has opposed the cease and desist order. They said they are only managing the drainage pipes that releases stormwater or rainwater into the bay, and some have illegally tapped their drainage pipe to release this wastewater. While they haven't answered directly whether they have their own sewage treatment plants, they insist that they are not releasing any wastewater, especially since they are part of the Supreme Court order that is tasked to clean up Manila Bay. Charles?
Shaila, I understand that the DENR is inspecting Manila Bay today. Is there a specific reason why there's an inspection today, and what have they found so far?
Charles, they inspected this part of Manila Bay to check if the outfalls that they have sealed are not releasing any more wastewater. They also conducted water sampling, and that they are planning the next steps after sealing all these outfalls. Charles?
Shaila, could you tell us the DENR's response to these reactions from these accused agencies?
Charles, specifically for DPWH, they acknowledge their concerns. They clarified that they have only issued the CDO to DPWH because they are the one managing the pipe that are releasing, or that is releasing wastewater into the bay. They acknowledge that the DPWH may not be the culprit, and there have been some establishments illegally tapping their drainage pipes. So they are working now with the DPWH to find out who these establishments are. Charles?
Shaila, one last question before I let you go. Could you tell us the status of these inspections of certain establishments by the authorities?
Charles, earlier, the Laguna Lake Development Authority says that they've already inspected 85% of establishments here in Manila and Pasay City. The DNR and the LLDA targets to finish the inspection before the rainy season so they could open some of the outfalls that are releasing drainage water to avoid flooding when the rainy season comes. Charles?
Thanks for those updates, Shaila. That was Shaila Francisco reporting live from Manila. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We're One News.